Welcome back to the Mining Pod. Charlie and Matt in the cockpit again, in the saddle. Charlie's back, fresh from Amsterdam. We're going to talk about Bitcoin price really today, mostly. Got some good bull action, some Bitcoin culture to talk about. Not a lot of mining news, to be honest, this week. Like, we'll touch on difficulty and hash rate and some ASIC prices, but there wasn't too much in mining news this week. And then we'll finish off with a mini masterclass from our very own Matthew Kimmel on Taproot assets, aka Taro, aka not Taro, because that's illegal to say now. Did you know that you can make more money by merge mining other networks? Check out makemoremoneymining.com for information on BIPs 300 and 301, a proposal to bring more revenue to Bitcoin miners through sidechains and merge mining called drive chains. Increase your mining revenues and learn more about participating in Bitcoin governance by visiting makemoremoneymining.com. Are you a miner who wants to activate Bitcoin improvements? Check out Activation.Watch. See what Bitcoin improvements the Bitcoin community, developers, and miners are considering, and show support by signaling for one of many BIPs up for consideration. Activation.Watch. Is your mining operation happening ready? Take control of your own future with the right energy strategy. Lincoin Energy Trading Platform is a tool used by miners to design, monitor, and seamlessly orchestrate sophisticated energy strategies within electricity markets such as ERCOT, New York, and PJM. Avoid penalties, participate in demand response programs, and capture hundreds of thousands of dollars per megawatt per year by deploying the right block and index strategy. Secure your competitive edge at lincoin.com.
Hey Mining Pod, I'm Lee Bratcher, President of the Texas Blockchain Council. The Texas Blockchain Summit is now the North American Blockchain Summit. The same emphasis on policy, energy, and Bitcoin mining, but now expanded by working with our partners across the country. We've got great sponsors lined up like Riot, Marathon, GDA, CleanSpark, BitDeer, Lancium, Cormint, Compass, HTS, Crypto Power, Priority Power, Sonoda, and many more. Solidify your next deal or JV, or just come for the networking on November 15th through 17th in Fort Worth, Texas, for the 3rd annual North American Blockchain Summit. We'll see you there.
Are you a retail or institutional investor interested in Bitcoin mining companies? The Miner Mag brings you free data and analysis from all major NASDAQ-listed Bitcoin mining operations to know who stands out. Check out visualized metrics and data-dependent stories at theminermag.com. Let's go first to this video from Larry Fink, which I think summarizes what's going on pretty well.
The rumor, I think the rally today is about a flight to quality with all the, all the issues around the Israeli war now, global terrorism. And I think there's more people running into a flight to quality, whether that is in treasuries, gold, or crypto, depending on how you think about it. And I believe crypto will play that type of role as a flight to quality.
That was pretty great.
Yeah, it's surreal to see Larry Fink saying that. I mean, we've heard him notably say during previous bull runs, Bitcoin is a useless asset class, or Bitcoin specifically, crypto broadly. It's crazy to see him. And note this, like, this is during a bear market. So he doesn't have to talk about this. So this is very much a tone shift. A lot of people pay attention to this guy's words. Yeah, absolutely wild. What do you think, Matt?
I mean, I'm all for more Bitcoiners, right? Especially people that have influence to go on TV, know powerful people with a lot of money that can impact adoption in a positive way. So, I mean, I'm all for it. I think there's some like aligned incentives here. Obviously, there's the ETF filing, but I think also BlackRock has some ownership stake in some mining companies. Is that true?
Well, they passively purchase them through their funds. So somewhat, yes. I don't know if the entity BlackRock itself like owns them as much as like their constituents who purchase into their ETFs do. But yes,
Got it.
Definitely like incentive aligned here. And for background, for those who weren't paying attention to headlines this week, the recent lawsuit between Grayscale and the SEC went in favor of Grayscale, and it does look like there's going to be progression towards an ETF because of that ruling. So that ruling did not say that they can convert the Grayscale trust into an ETF, but it did move them down the football field, if you will, to be able to get there a little bit quicker. So it looks like by January 10th, we may indeed have a Bitcoin ETF. And it does look like they might just approve all of them at the same time. There's like 7 to 10 different applications out there. And why are they going to do that? Well, because first person who has a ETF is typically the one everyone buys into, and then everyone else is a lagger, and it's really hard to make up that market share. So if we have a lot going at the same time, there's going to be a lot of competition. Maybe 1 or 2 emerge as like the top ones, but we're going to have Bitcoin ETF is the highlight there. So
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like every ETF was like saying, "Oh, we're having progress in our discussions with SEC right now." I mean, I remember Kathy Wood talking about the ARK ETF. I just like, you look at like what Larry Fink said, and I'm a young guy, I don't have a lot of experience analyzing the kind of public statements that these guys make, but like using the term flight to quality, that is very different than saying this is an interesting asset class or like speculative. It's like to be very specific about crypto being a quality position, like that's wild to me. So very, very optimistic about those words.
you're going to follow up on that with this Christine Lagarde video really quickly
Hold on.
here.
The last thing I want to say about that, really quick, is that it's pretty clear that there was a ton of outside demand just like waiting for this ETF thing, right? Like we got to mention the Cointelegraph fake out like a couple days ago, where Bitcoin
Yes.
price went up. I think it was 7% in 8 minutes. Like it was like unreal candle.
The
that was-
God candle has returned.
right? And so while like in the Bitcoin ecosystem itself, like none of it really matters, right? There's clear that there's a lot of investment capital out there that wants this to happen, and the price going up is just clear that a lot of people are making bets and are kind of thinking it's actually going to be a real thing. The options market is also going crazy, tilting to the call side. So we're getting kind of exuberant out there. It's going to be interesting to see how it like plays out in the next couple months.
Walk us through the call side thing there, because I for sure am not going to get that, but I bet some people in the audience might be interested in knowing like those market dynamics and how that tells us where people are thinking Bitcoin price is going to go.
Yeah, I mean, you could just like someone placing a call option is basically just a bet to the upside, like on an asset, right? And particularly, there's the 3-month like contract is getting a lot of traction right now. And as you said, a lot of people are expecting there to be an ETF decision, possibly like one that actually comes to fruition in the January 10th range. And so if that's the case, it's about 3 months out. And so people are expecting when that happens, there's going to be a Bitcoin run up. And so those options will help some traders make some money. And that's really all there is to it.
Are you betting?
Are
you running bulls?
I am just a jolly old dollar cost averaging Bitcoiner.
Yeah, me too. Dollar cost averaging Bitcoin miner. My one S19 in Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, like we always see, like people are always like, "Oh, is this news bullish or bearish?" And for the past 10 years, it almost seems uncorrelated, except by kind of what market regime we're in. Are we in bull or bear? Are we going up or down? And then whatever news it is, good or bad, it just causes the price to reflect up or down. To me, I see this, and maybe we're kind of becoming more locked into, I would say, like real news cycle, but I just see as I see people want to buy. People want to buy Bitcoin. They're waiting for a reason, which is very different than people waiting to sell or being anxious about whether they should sell or not. So, yeah, it's been a while since we saw like a discrete news story or discrete event which caused a huge reflexive buy to the upside, which is very exciting.
Yeah, we got to bring up this Cointelegraph wick that you just mentioned. Irresponsible of us not to contextualize Larry Fink's quote within what happened there. So, for those who are not watching Twitter this week, Cointelegraph put out a tweet saying that the Bitcoin ETF was approved, and then they edited it a few minutes later. Were like reportedly, but they were the ones reporting it, and essentially just they fell for a Telegram or a Twitter screenshot to the effect that it was approved. That was not true. But we did see Bitcoin wake up to 30K really quickly. So you can see on the screen here, if you're watching on YouTube, just like pretty magnificent candle going up and then quickly retrace. Then Larry Fink goes on to, I think that was CNBC, talks about it, talks about how there is interest, right, into moving this market. This morning, I had a JP Morgan analyst on the interview portion of this show, Reggie Smith, and we talked about why an ETF matters for Bitcoin. And his point was it's going to bring in so much liquidity. So I mean, even there, you can see like the liquidity is coming, and we've had just two bits of ETF news this week, one fake, one real, and both have added some buying pressure to Bitcoin. Let's talk about mining and then go to Christine Lagarde, because that Christine Lagarde video we'll pull up in a minute is pretty interesting. But I'm going to hand it over to you, Charlie. You talked a little bit about Luxor's RFQ model and how you guys are able to track loosely the pricing of ASICs right now, as we're seeing a crazy growth in hash rate, crazy jumps in difficulty, and new ASICs coming to the market.
Yeah, so I mean, hash rate is just unrelenting to the upside. We are at, I mean, what is it? The moving 7-day average is at like 440, 450. We saw a big upward difficulty adjustment, 6 point something percent. And this is crazy. I mean, we're like at we're close to all-time low in hash price. We're at the like low 6 cents or $60 per pet hash, depending on how you batch it. And so this is exciting. It's bullish for the Bitcoin network. It's painful for our miners who are sweating right now. Perhaps we're down
Sweaty miners.
Sweaty miners. And we, I will point to our hash price index. We put out a piece on kind of ASIC pricing. This is one of my favorite kind of really granular looks into the actual pricing of rigs. And we're trying to kind of go a little bit deeper than simply a chart. And we're trying to add some dynamism to like, well, okay, so there's a new hot ASIC, the S21. It's a teens per terahash, joules per terahash model. So like, what does this do to the other ASICs? And so we go in we talk about, and this is from Colin Kelly from Luxor. We talk about the bid-ask gap, which kind of, right there. It kind of shows you, it reveals a couple things by model of like, so for the less efficient models now, we're going to call the less efficient the S19 kind of vanilla class.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. This is the new era.
I don't like hearing that.
I know. I don't like hearing it either. But, this is the reality. We always got to go forwards. With that, it's we've seen the kind of the spread bid-ask delta or gap will be a little bit to the downside. So the market wants to price these a little bit lower than people are asking to sell them. And that just says these rigs are older and they're going to be more, you're only going to be able to hook them up to certain types of power. But on that note, we actually see that being one of the actual S19, not JRK, be one of the largest kind of by volume that we sell from our desk, not just in the past month, but kind of this past year, which shows like there is demand for it. And perhaps you marry that with some very good firmware. It's just a very, very cheap priced rig. When the S21 came out, or as that kind of, or the S21 announcement came out, that caused the 19 class to drop in price dramatically. I mean, we're looking at the like under $1,000 per rig now, which is very interesting. It allows, I think, if you've got money, if you're one of the few people who has cash on hand and can deploy it, you've got a lot of options right now, which is exciting. I think we're in that stage of the market where there's multiple ways to deploy capital, whether you want to go super cheap on a specific model, or you just want to like what I call having resistant S21s.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I think it's very interesting. We kind of try to provide some, I believe they're monthly insights to the rig market. But again, like that's a small little kind of cohort who cares about the rig pricing, but it is a nice granular look at what happened in the past few weeks as far as ASICs. So shout out Colin Kelly from Luxor.
Shout out Charlie for that awesome review right there.
Yeah.
I thought this was an interesting article. I almost saw it as like when the new iPhone drops and like everyone races to like trade in their old iPhone and like get the new iPhone. Because another thing they mentioned was like the increase in secondary market sales of like the used S19 class. It was kind of interesting. Like the price drop comes with a lot of people selling them on the secondary market when this new S21 comes out, and so you could see that people may be like going to try to get the discounted S21s and like starting to get rid of the machines that they've been using in the S19, the previously most efficient class, right? But they have to lower their prices in order to actually get people to buy them, like to get them out the window. So interesting stuff.
Win titanium ASIC. Okay, let's go to Christine Lagarde. I want to talk about this video. I've mentioned it like 3 times already.
The Governing Council of the ECB approved the opening of the preparation phase. It will be a journey, and we will walk the journey together with the legislator. All European institutions will be involved to make sure that Europe is equipped with the currency of the future. Cash is here to stay. You will have all options, cash and digital cash. So what does it mean for you? For consumers, it would be free and easy to use everywhere in the euro area. All of that, of course, is subject to the legislative process. Cash or digital, the choice will be yours. No euro, your choice.
Is that a threat?
It's so painful. I'm sorry I made everyone listen to that.
Like went live and like started attacking the Jedi Council.
It was like really painful.
I feel like she's making us an offer that we can't refuse. It's got
your
that
choice.
Yeah, it's totally up to you, but
definitely sci-fi villain vibes.
Yeah, this is like so painful to watch. Government official, obviously, so they're robots. But the point of it kind of goes back to the beginning of our conversation. Larry Fink is now interested in Bitcoin. He's now arguing on behalf of a Bitcoin ETF on CNBC and elsewhere. Now we have the ECB deploying their digital euro, like they're pushing forward with it. Like the time is now, right? And this happens right when hash price is really low, the market's really bad. A lot of people are, have been flamed out. We're in the depths of Chapter 11 issues with so many different companies. FTX is going through its process right now in New York in federal court. This is the depth of the bear market, but we're now seeing like the light on the outside. And I just want to rejoice in that for a second because that's good news, guys.
Let's not pretend though that like CBDC announcements are like positive news attention for Bitcoin.
I don't know.
Devil's advocate there.
Maybe a discussion for another show, but I do think like that is going to happen at some point, and then that does shed light more on Bitcoin as being like an open and liberty-free alternative, if you will.
True.
Although if they really wanted to shake things up, and then I'm going to segue here, it would be really it'd throw everyone for a loop if we issued a CBDC on Taproot assets.
Whoa.
I think this would cause the most crossing wires in everybody's head. I like to imagine the path of maximum pain, and this would be the most hilarious scenario. But then we saw this week, right? And I mean, Matt, this is your domain. I would love
bread and butter.
Yeah, I'd love to hear you talk about Taproot assets.
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, we're not going to get into the technical details of this thing, but it's basically a way to have like multi-asset Bitcoin, right? If you so choose to opt into it. So no base layer changes or anything like that. It's another symptom of the most recent soft fork that everyone has come to love, Taproot, right? It also spawned the Ordinals ecosystem and all that stuff. What kind of makes, and like, let's give some historical context. People have been doing, multi-asset things on Bitcoin for a long, long time, right? But what makes this kind of different is it's basically trying to weaponize Lightning on that front, right? And Lightning as kind of like the stacked layered approach on Bitcoin that you can also opt into and send coins around at like really fast speeds and for very cheap, right? You think of being able to do that with stable coins, and it could be attractive for a lot of people out there. Hence why chains like Tron are the most used per like on a transaction number basis for stable coins, and it's not happening on things on other chains that are like more expensive, not as fast, etc. So it'll be interesting to see. It's just a mainnet release. There's not like some crazy adoption happening on it yet, but this was kind of like something first released as an idea over a year ago, and now seeing it on mainnet, we can have a pathway to something like Tether being on Lightning, or as Charlie put it, a CBDC, which that would be. I'm gonna pretend like that's honestly not even an option.
Actually, in the Tether leaving OmniLayer announcement a few months ago, I think Tether specifically pointed out RGB as an attractive layer, which is kind of interesting. Um, Full disclosure, I spent most of last night issuing a bunch of test RGB assets.
Oh, now he's a whale, and now he's showing it on the show.
I own all the dumb tickers on the BitMask thing. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't. I like to experiment. I mean, what we saw, and I will brings back to ordinals, is regardless of. I mean, I'm a well-known critic of the BRC20 standard, just as it's got issues with it from a structuring, and it's kind of a messaging layer. It doesn't really make sense. But we see clear demand for shitcoin liquidity. I call it shitquidity, and and sometimes this can develop into actual material assets on this chain. And so there's a Cambrian explosion. I wonder if it's coincidental or kind of path dependent of why we got Taproot assets, RGB assets. We have KC building runes. We have BRC20. A year ago today,
Potentially a DLC type of thing.
yeah, exactly. A year ago today, this was not even a part of the discussion, even really in, I would say, even fringe Bitcoin narrative. And now it's everywhere you go. And you see Bitcoiners talking about it. You see new Bitcoiners. You see everybody across the kind of Bitcoin adjacent space all talking about it. So I'm very curious to see where this will go. We have demand and we have options. Now it's kind of let the protocols compete.
I got a question for Matt.
Shoot.
For Taproot assets, how does this benefit Bitcoin miners, or does it benefit Bitcoin miners in any realistic way in the near future?
So I would say Taproot assets is one possible path down a whole different kind of like gamut of potential options that could increase the amount of value that is happening on Bitcoin settlement, right? It comes back to like an age-old question of like, how could the financial system kind of be doctored to stack on top of Bitcoin, right? And if more and more types of financial activity can settle down into simple Bitcoin transfers, right? People will be willing to pay more in transaction fees, right? They're going to be more economically dense transactions. And so if you're settling more value, people are willing to pay more in transaction fees. Miners will get more revenue from not the subsidy, right? Not new issuance, but transaction fees, which is something that could have greater longevity, right? As the subsidy is going down, you would want to see transaction fees to go up as a miner. Like I said, it's just one path. Who knows if it's going to work out? But I think with all of these development teams trying to work on a way to have more assets and like a better user experience, kind of cheaper, faster ways, right? I think it's almost inevitable that we get some type of stablecoin at least being able to be sent around on Lightning in kind of like an easy way.
And what happens to our Bitcoin culture built on top of DCA and Bitcoin as the pristine asset? What happens to that? We'll have to talk about it on a show.
Mutually distinct. Why does that have to change?
I think they win too. I think everybody wins. The more people using Bitcoin, the more people win. Rising tide lifts all boats, even if we're, pissing off the dog. Like, this is just kind of how it's gonna be, and the permissionlessness nature of Bitcoin, enables this as opposed to constrains it. So I am looking for I call it shitquidity. More shitquidity on Bitcoin. I've embraced it. I've come full circle. I've been indoctrinated by the new group of people on Bitcoin because I'm having the most fun I've ever had.
Any tickers we should buy?
No.
I'm just kidding. Okay, we'll close.
BTC.
BTC.
BTC. Yeah.
Buy Bitcoin.
Sats on L1.
Sats. We should issue a Sats token in RGB and see if people will buy it.
There already is.
You did it, didn't you?
Nope,
No,
but you can see who did.
Okay, we'll close out there. Matt, Charlie, thank you for joining. If you are enjoying the show, subscribe on YouTube. That helps. Give us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. We will see you next week on Tuesday or Wednesday on the same feed. We're going to be talking with, again, JP Morgan analyst talking about Bitcoin mining stocks. Great conversation there, and many more shows to come. Thanks. Bye.